My parents ignored my birthday again. But when they saw my $94,000 Mercedes on Instagram, my dad called, "Where did you get the money?" I'm Kevin, 26, and I've been the invisible son for years. While my parents throw celebration parties every time my younger sister, Sophie, gets a participation trophy in her dance classes, I quietly became the youngest regional sales director at a tech startup making serious money. The favoritism has been absolutely insane my entire life. When Sophie wanted to try violin at 15, they bought her a $2,000 instrument without hesitation. When I asked for help with college textbooks, Dad literally handed me a McDonald's application and said, "Earn it yourself." When she decided violin wasn't for her and wanted to switch to dance, they enrolled her in the most expensive studio in town, paying $400 monthly without blinking. Last month was the absolute final straw. Sophie announced she's switching from dance to pottery because she found her true artistic calling. My parents immediately offered to fund a $3,000 pottery wheel, kiln, and complete studio setup. Meanwhile, I've been living off ramen noodles and sleeping on a mattress on the floor because they told me at 26 I should figure out my own finances and stop being a burden on the family. When I asked for a small loan to help with a security deposit on a better apartment, Dad gave me a 45-minute lecture about fiscal responsibility. The irony? While they were treating me like a complete financial liability, I'd been quietly crushing it at work. 3 months ago, I closed the biggest software integration deal in our company's entire history. A Fortune 500 client signed a 3-year contract worth $2.8 million, and my commission structure meant serious money was finally coming my way. That's when I got my quarterly commission check, $47,000 after taxes from that one deal alone, plus my regular salary and performance bonuses. Instead of being smart and investing it responsibly, I decided to make a statement that would completely shatter their perception of my life. I walked straight into the Mercedes dealership that afternoon. The AMG C63S was sitting in the showroom like automotive perfection. Matte black paint, twin-turbo V8 engine, 469 horsepower of pure German engineering. The kind of car that makes people stop mid-conversation and just stare in amazement. The salesman initially treated me like I was completely wasting his time. Young guy in jeans and a hoodie looking at a $94,000 car. He barely made eye contact. That changed real quick when I said I wanted to put $30,000 down in cash and finance the rest. Suddenly, I was his favorite customer. But here's the absolute genius part. I didn't tell anyone about the car or the commission. I just went about my normal routine for an entire week, letting my parents continue their narrative about their struggling oldest son who couldn't get his life together. Then, last Friday night, I posted one casual Instagram story. Nothing fancy, just a photo of my hand on the steering wheel with that iconic 3-pointed Mercedes star clearly visible in the corner. The caption was simple, "New ride." My phone absolutely exploded within an hour. First, it was Sophie who screenshot the story and sent it with confused question marks. Then, my mom called twice, but I let both calls go straight to voicemail. Finally, Dad called with a completely different tone. His voice was serious, almost suspicious. "Kevin, we need to talk immediately. That car costs more than most people make in an entire year. Family meeting tomorrow, 6 p.m., sharp. Don't be late." I showed up 15 minutes early and parked right in their driveway, positioning the car perfectly so they'd see it the moment they walked outside. When Dad opened the front door and saw the AMG sitting there, his face went completely white. Mom came up behind him and I watched her mouth actually fall open. "Son," Dad said slowly, "if you're involved in something illegal, we need to know right now." That's when I pulled out my phone and showed them my banking app. Account balance, $73,000. Then I handed him my employment contract, my commission statement, and my latest performance review. His hands were literally shaking as he read the numbers. "Impressive, but here's what you don't know." Dad opened his laptop and turned it toward me. My company's logo filled the screen. "I'm the majority investor in your startup, Kevin. Paid $200,000 2 years ago through an LLC. My heart stopped. "And I'm pulling out tomorrow unless we reach an understanding about your income." The room temperature dropped about 20 degrees. I stared at the screen, at our company logo, at the investment documents with his signature buried under some LLC name I'd never heard of. Redwood Capital Holdings. My dad owned 38% of the company I'd spent 3 years building my career at. "You're bluffing," I said, but my voice came out shakier than I wanted. Dad closed the laptop with a deliberate click. "Am I? Call your CEO right now. Ask him about the emergency board meeting scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow, the one where I'm proposing we restructure the sales commission model." Mom stood behind him with her arms crossed, and for the first time I noticed Sophie wasn't anywhere in the house. This ambush was planned. "You've been tracking my income?" I said slowly. "We're your parents. Of course we keep tabs on you. Mom's voice was ice cold. Did you really think we wouldn't notice when you suddenly started acting different? When you stopped asking for help completely? I stopped asking because you kept telling me no. We were teaching you responsibility. Dad walked over to the window, looked out at my Mercedes. Clearly, we should have been more involved in your financial decisions. That car is a liability, not an asset. You're throwing away money on a depreciating luxury item when you should be investing in your future. The absolute audacity of this man. The same person who bought Sophie a kiln without blinking was now lecturing me about financial responsibility. So what's the understanding you want to reach? I kept my voice level even though I wanted to scream. Dad turned back to face me. 50% of your commissions go into a family investment fund. We manage it properly. Build real wealth instead of flashy cars. In exchange, I keep my investment in your company and you keep your job. That's extortion. That's family looking out for each other, Mom said. Sophie contributes to the household too. She does chores, helps with the garden. I actually laughed at that. Sophie contributes? She's 23 years old and you still do her laundry. Don't bring your sister into this. Dad's voice went sharp. This is about you making foolish choices. That Mercedes proves you're not mature enough to handle money responsibly. I paid cash. My credit score is 780. I have zero debt except the car loan, which I can afford 10 times over with my salary alone. For now, Dad sat down on the couch, getting comfortable like he was settling in for a long negotiation. But what happens when the company downsizes? When your hot streak ends? You'll be stuck with a luxury car payment and no safety net. I have 6 months of expenses saved. I max out my 401k. I have an investment portfolio. I'm doing fine. You're doing fine because you got lucky with one big sale. Mom sat next to Dad, presenting a united front. Luck runs out, Kevin. We're trying to protect you from yourself. The thing about gaslighting is that when it's been happening your whole life, you start to doubt your own reality. For about 5 seconds, I wondered if they were right, if I was being irresponsible, if that Mercedes was a stupid mistake. Then I remembered Sophie's pottery studio, the one that cost more than my down payment, the one she'd used exactly twice in 3 weeks before deciding pottery wasn't her thing after all. What happens to Sophie's contributions to this family investment fund? Mom and Dad exchanged a look. That's different, Mom said. How? She's finding herself. She's exploring her passions. We can't put a price on personal growth, but you can put a price on my success. 50%. It's for your own good, Dad said. I stood up, pulled my car keys from my pocket. I need to think about this. You have until 9 a.m. Dad's voice followed me to the door. After that, I'm calling the board meeting with or without your cooperation. I drove home in my beautiful, stupid, irresponsible Mercedes. Called my CEO, Trent, from the parking lot of my apartment. Kevin, hey. Trent sounded tired. I was going to call you tomorrow morning. Is there a board meeting at 9 a.m.? Long pause. Yeah. How'd you know? What's it about? Another pause. Longer this time. One of our major investors is concerned about the commission structure. Thinks we're paying sales too much. Cutting into profitability. Wants to cap commissions at $30K per quarter regardless of sale size. My $47,000 commission would have been $30,000 under that structure. A $17,000 difference, times 4 quarters a year. Nearly $70,000 less annually if I kept performing at this level. Who's the investor? Can't say. Confidentiality clause in the investment agreement. Is it Redwood Capital Holdings? Trent went quiet. Then, how do you know that name? It's my father. Your father is Richard Hollis? My dad's name is Richard. I never connected it because the investment company used some generic LLC name. But of course he'd be listed personally in the actual paperwork. Yeah, I said. Richard Hollis is my dad. Jesus, Kevin. Trent exhaled loudly. This is complicated. What's complicated about it? He's using his investment position to blackmail me into giving him half my income. He didn't phrase it like that in his proposal. He framed it as company-wide commission restructuring to improve long-term sustainability and profit margins for all stakeholders. Which conveniently happens right after I closed the biggest deal in company history and bought a Mercedes. I can't prove correlation. But you know it's connected. Trent was quiet for a long time. Kevin, you're the best sales director we've ever had. Your close rate is 67% above company average. But if Redwood pulls their investment, we lose our credit line. We'd have to lay off a third of the staff to stay solvent. So I'm screwed either way. I'm trying to find a middle ground. Maybe a compromise where we restructure commissions but grandfather in existing contracts. Or we find another investor to buy out Redwood's position. How long would that take? Months. Maybe a year. I sat in my car, in the parking lot, watching the sun set behind my apartment building. A building I'd been so proud to move into 6 months ago when I finally scraped together enough for the security deposit. After years of my parents telling me I needed to figure it out myself, do what you need to do for the company, I told Trent. I'll figure something out. Kevin, wait. Don't make any rash decisions. But I'd already hung up. Inside my apartment, I did what any rational person would do. I opened my laptop and started researching employment law, specifically conflicts of interest and fiduciary duty in investment relationships. Turns out, investors have obligations to act in the best interest of the company, not their personal vendettas. If I could prove Dad was proposing commission changes solely to punish me for buying a car, that was a breach of his fiduciary duty. Proving it was the hard part. I needed evidence, documentation, something concrete that showed he was targeting me specifically. My phone buzzed. Sophie. Finally. Kevin, what the hell is going on? Mom and Dad are freaking out about some car you bought. They didn't tell you about their ultimatum? What ultimatum? I explained the whole situation. The investment, the board meeting, the demand for 50% of my income. Sophie was quiet for a long time. Then, that's really messed up. You think? Kevin, I'm sorry. I didn't know Dad had invested in your company. I didn't know any of this. It's not your fault, but it kind of is, isn't it? They've always treated you different. I just never really noticed until now. This was the most self-aware Sophie had been in years. Do you know why? I asked. Why what? Why they treat me like I'm worthless and you like you're made of gold. Sophie sighed. I asked Mom about it once, back in high school. She said something about how Dad had a really rough relationship with his own father. Something about his dad favoring his older brother and Dad always feeling like the invisible kid. She said Dad wanted to make sure that didn't happen in our family. By doing the exact same thing to me, I think in his mind he's being fair to me, overcompensating. He doesn't see what it looks like from your side. That's not an excuse. I know. I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to explain. We talked for another hour. Sophie admitted she'd been uncomfortable with the favoritism for a while, but never spoke up because, honestly, she liked the benefits, the dance classes, the pottery studio, the constant praise and financial support. But watching them threaten your job over a car is insane, Sophie said. I'm not okay with that. What can you do about it? I don't know yet, but I'll think of something. After we hung up, I made a decision. I wasn't giving Dad 50% of my income. I wasn't letting him control my career. If that meant the company lost his investment and I lost my job, so be it. I'd find another position. I'd already had 2 recruiters reach out this month about openings at competing firms, but I wasn't going down without a fight. I spent the rest of the night documenting everything. Screenshots of Sophie's pottery studio costs from Mom's Facebook posts, where she bragged about supporting her daughter's artistic journey. Screenshots of the dance studio bills I'd found in their recycling during Christmas dinner last year. Yes, I was petty enough to photograph their trash. Old text messages where I asked for help with textbooks and got lectures instead. Every single instance of differential treatment I could remember and document. Then I drafted an email to the company's board of directors. Not to Trent, directly to the board. I outlined my father's investment in the company through Redwood Capital Holdings. I explained our family relationship. I detailed his ultimatum and the timeline of events, specifically noting that his proposal for commission restructuring came exactly 1 week after my largest sale closed and 3 days after I purchased a vehicle he disapproved of. I attached screenshots of his text messages that night, demanding a family meeting. I included Sophie's testimony. She'd agreed to provide a written statement about the favoritism pattern. I cited the specific business law statutes about fiduciary duty and conflict of interest. And I concluded with a simple statement. I believe Richard Hollis is using his investment position to exert inappropriate personal control over an employee's private financial decisions. This represents a clear conflict of interest and potential breach of fiduciary duty to the company and its stakeholders. I request the board investigate this matter before implementing any commission structure changes. I saved the email as a draft, stared at it for 20 minutes. Sending this would nuke whatever remained of my relationship with my parents. It would probably embarrass Dad publicly in front of the board. It might not even work, but letting him blackmail me would set a precedent I could never recover from. At 11:47 p.m., I hit send. Then I cracked open a beer and waited. The response came at 6:15 a.m., not from the board, from Trent. Kevin, emergency meeting, my office, 7:30 a.m. Do not be late. I showed up at 7. 20 inches my best suit, the one I wore for executive client meetings. Trent was already there with the company's legal counsel, Patricia Morgan, and the board chairman, Vincent Cho. Sit down, Vincent said. He was 68, retired from a Fortune 500 company, served on 3 boards, the kind of man who didn't waste time on pleasantries. I sat. Vincent slid a printed copy of my email across the table. This is a serious accusation. It's a serious situation. We've reviewed Richard Hollis's proposal. On paper, it's a reasonable restructuring aimed at improving profit margins and reducing volatility in compensation costs. On paper, I said. What about the timeline? What about the fact that he's my father and this proposal comes right after I made a personal purchase he didn't approve of? We can't prove intent, Patricia said. Corporate governance requires us to evaluate proposals on their business merits, not personal speculation. I have text messages. I have witnesses. I have documented pattern of behavior spanning 26 years. Vincent leaned back in his chair. Kevin, I understand you're upset. Family dynamics are complicated, but we can't deny an investor's right to propose policy changes just because his son works here. Even when that proposal is clearly retaliatory? Can you prove it's retaliatory? Patricia asked. He told me directly, last night, in his house, that if I didn't agree to give him 50% of my commissions, he'd tank my career. Do you have that recorded? No. Then it's hearsay. I looked at Trent. He wouldn't meet my eyes. So that's it? I said. He gets away with this? Vincent stood up. We're going to table the commission restructuring proposal for 60 days while we conduct a thorough review of all investor proposals to ensure they align with company interests. In the meantime, Kevin, I suggest you have a frank conversation with your father about boundaries and professional conduct. He's not going to like being tabled. That's not your concern. That's our concern. Vincent headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, your email took guts. Most people would have just rolled over. We need salespeople with that kind of backbone. After they left, Trent finally looked at me. That went better than I expected, he said. Better? They basically said there's nothing they can do. They bought you 60 days. That's 60 days to find evidence, build a case, or figure out your next move. They also sent a clear message to your father that they're watching. You think that'll stop him? Trent shrugged. Guys like Richard Hollis don't like being challenged, but they also don't like public scrutiny. The board asking questions about his motives puts him in an uncomfortable position. My phone buzzed. Dad. Board meeting canceled. We need to talk. Now. I showed Trent the message. Good luck, he said. I met Dad at a coffee shop near his house. Neutral territory. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in the back corner with a black coffee and a newspaper he wasn't reading. You went to the board, he said without looking up. You tried to blackmail me. He folded the newspaper with precise, angry movements. I was trying to teach you responsibility. Instead, you've made this into a public embarrassment. You made it public when you used your investment position to threaten my career. Everything I've done has been for your benefit, to help you build a stable future instead of wasting money on toys. It's my money, Dad, my career, my life, and I'm your father. That means something. Yeah, it means you're supposed to support me, not sabotage me. He stared at me for a long moment. His jaw was tight, hands gripping the coffee cup like he wanted to crush it. You've always been difficult, he finally said. Even as a kid, always pushing back, always questioning. Sophie understands respect. You never did. Sophie understands that if she plays along, she gets rewarded. That's not respect. That's manipulation. I won't sit here and be insulted by my own son. Then leave. Dad stood up, threw a $5 bill on the table even though he'd barely touched his coffee. The board bought you 60 days. After that, I'm resubmitting my proposal. And this time, I'll make sure it passes. Then I'll make sure everyone knows exactly why you're proposing it. Good luck proving anything. He grabbed his newspaper. You always were paranoid, making up stories about favoritism. Your mother and I treated you both exactly the same. He left before I could respond. I sat there alone, drinking my coffee, wondering how it was possible for a parent to be so completely oblivious to reality. My phone buzzed again. Sophie. Mom just called me crying. Said you accused Dad of being a bad parent in front of his business partners. Is that true? I told the board the truth about his ultimatum. Kevin, this is getting out of hand. He started it. You're both being ridiculous. Can't you just talk this out like adults? I tried. He threatened to tank my career. Sophie was quiet. Then, he's still planning the pottery studio expansion next month. Did you know that? He just signed the contract for a gas kiln upgrade. Another $4,000. Of course he did. Meanwhile, you're fighting over whether you can buy a car with your own money. The hypocrisy is insane. Finally, you see it. I've always seen it, Kevin. I just didn't know what to do about it. You could have said something. Any time in the last 10 years. I know. I'm sorry. We hung up. I ordered another coffee and opened my laptop. Started researching employment opportunities at competing firms. By lunch, I had 3 interviews scheduled for next week. The thing about burning bridges is that sometimes the bridge was already on fire. You're just deciding whether to jump or burn with it. I chose to jump. Over the next 60 days, I closed 2 more major deals, combined commissions of $61,000. My sales numbers were untouchable. The board sent out a company-wide memo praising the sales team's performance and specifically calling out my client retention rate, 94%, highest in company history. Dad went silent. No calls, no texts. Mom sent the occasional guilt trip message about family unity, but I ignored them. Sophie started distancing herself too. Not from me, from them. She moved out of their house into an apartment with her boyfriend. Stopped posting photos of her pottery studio on Instagram. Started paying her own phone bill for the first time in her life. It feels weird, she told me over dinner one night. Having to budget, but also kind of good, like I'm actually an adult now. Welcome to reality. Is this how you felt the whole time? Pretty much. She picked at her pasta. I get why you're mad at them. I get why you're mad at me too. I'm not mad at you. You should be. Maybe, but you're trying now. That counts for something. On day 58, Trent called me into his office. Richard Hollis withdrew his proposal, he said. Completely. Sent a formal letter to the board saying he'd reconsidered and believed the current commission structure was appropriate after all. I sat down slowly. Why? Vincent had a conversation with him, off the record. Explained that the board had discussed opening an investigation into potential conflicts of interest among investors. Nothing formal, nothing that would go on record, but enough to make Richard understand that pushing this issue would result in uncomfortable scrutiny of all his business dealings. So they threatened him. They reminded him of his obligations. There's a difference. And he just folded? Trent smiled slightly. Turns out Richard Hollis has investments in 6 other companies through various LLCs. If the board here started asking questions about conflict of interest, other boards might start asking similar questions. He couldn't risk that kind of attention. I leaned back in my chair, felt something loosen in my chest that I didn't realize had been tight for 2 months. So it's over? It's over. Your commissions are safe. Your job is safe. And Richard Hollis learned a valuable lesson about not mixing family drama with business investments. That night, I drove my Mercedes to my parents' house. Parked in the driveway, same spot as before. Walked up to the front door and knocked. Mom answered, looked surprised to see me. Kevin, is Dad home? She hesitated, then nodded and let me in. Dad was in his study, pretending to read investment reports. He looked up when I entered but didn't say anything. I heard you withdrew your proposal, I said. The board made it clear it wasn't welcome, because it was retaliatory and you knew it. He set down his papers. I was trying to teach you financial responsibility. That's all it ever was. No, Dad. You were trying to control me, the same way you've been trying to control me my entire life. The same way you control Sophie with your money and Mom with your approval. That's not fair. None of this is fair. That's the point. I pulled out my phone, showed him my bank statement. I have $134,000 saved. I max out my $401k. I have a diversified investment portfolio. I paid cash for most of my car and the loan is at 2.9% interest. I'm doing better financially at 26 than you were doing at 35, and I have the tax returns to prove it because I pulled them from public records. His face went red. I don't need your financial advice. I don't need your approval. I don't need anything from you except basic human respect, which apparently is too much to ask. Mom appeared in the doorway. Kevin, please. Can't we just move past this? Move past what? The decades of favoritism? The constant message that I'm not good enough? The attempt to sabotage my career because I bought a car you didn't like? We never meant to make you feel that way, Mom said. But you did, and you kept doing it, even when Sophie tried to tell you, even when it was obvious to everyone except you. Dad stood up. So what do you want? An apology? Fine. I apologize for caring about my son's future. That's not an apology. That's another guilt trip. Then I don't know what you want from me. I want you to admit it. Say out loud that you treated me and Sophie differently. Say that you favored her. Say that you made me feel worthless for 26 years. The room went silent. Dad's jaw worked. Mom looked at the floor. I can't say that, Dad finally said, because I don't believe it's true. And there it was. The fundamental problem. He genuinely couldn't see it. Or wouldn't. The difference didn't really matter. Then we're done here, I said. I left before either of them could respond. Drove home in my Mercedes. Called Sophie on the way. I just had it out with them, I said. How'd it go? He can't admit it. Even now, after everything, he can't admit he treated us differently. Sophie sighed. He told me yesterday that he's proud of how independent you've become, like the neglect was some kind of intentional parenting strategy. That's insane. I know, but that's how he sees it. He's rewritten the whole history in his head where he was always fair and supportive and you're just ungrateful. What about you? How's he treating you now that you moved out? He keeps calling it a phase, asking when I'm moving back home. Can't comprehend that I'm actually happier paying my own bills and living like a normal adult. We talked for another 20 minutes. Made plans for dinner next week. Just the two of us, no parents invited. That was 4 months ago. Dad tried reaching out twice. Once by email, a long, rambling message about family and forgiveness that never once acknowledged what he'd actually done wrong. Once, by showing up at my apartment unannounced. I didn't let him in. Mom sends care packages sometimes. Cookies, socks, a new coffee maker last month. Little gifts with notes that say, "Love, Mom," and nothing else. I keep the gifts and throw away the notes. Sophie's thriving. She dropped pottery completely, admitted she never really liked it, and went back to school for accounting. Turns out she's really good with numbers when she's actually motivated to work instead of coast on parental funding. My career took off. I got promoted to vice president of sales. Now I manage a team of 12. My commission structure got even better with the promotion. Last quarter, I made $78,000 in commissions alone. And I still have my Mercedes. It's parked in my assigned spot at my new apartment building, a 2-bedroom downtown with a gym and a doorman and windows that overlook the city skyline. Every time I get in that car, I remember Dad's face when he saw it in the driveway. The shock, the anger, the moment he realized I wasn't his failure son anymore. I wasn't invisible. I had never been invisible. They just refused to see me. The difference was that now I didn't need them to. Some people ask if I regret buying the Mercedes, if I wish I'd invested that money differently or saved it or been more practical. And yeah, maybe there were smarter financial moves I could have made. But that car represented something bigger than transportation. It was proof that I'd made it despite them, not because of them. It was the physical manifestation of every time they'd said no and I'd figured it out anyway. Every lecture about fiscal responsibility while they funded Sophie's latest expensive hobby. Every moment I'd felt worthless in their eyes. That Mercedes was my middle finger to 2 decades of neglect, wrapped in German engineering and matte black paint. Worth every penny. Last week, I got an invitation in the mail. Sophie's birthday party. At my parents' house. The whole family will be there, the card said in Mom's handwriting. I threw it away. Then I took Sophie out for her birthday. Just the two of us. Got her a leather briefcase for her new accounting internship. She cried when she opened it. They got me a pottery wheel upgrade, she said, even though I haven't touched the original one in 6 months. Of course they did. I returned it, told them to donate it to the community center. How'd they take that? Mom cried. Dad said I was being ungrateful. Same old script. We laughed about it. The kind of laugh that only makes sense when you've both survived the same kind of crazy. That's the thing about toxic families. You don't fix them. You don't change them. You survive them. And if you're lucky, you find other survivors who get it, who understand that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes respect matters more. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from people who refuse to see you, even when you're standing right in front of them. Even when you're driving a $94,000 car that proves everything they ever said about you was wrong. Update 1. The fallout. 3 months after I threw away that birthday party invitation, things got weird. I was in a client meeting when my phone started blowing up. First text was from Sophie. Call me now. Emergency. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway. What's wrong? Dad had a heart attack. Everything stopped. Is he okay? He's stable. They're running tests. Mom wants you to come to the hospital. I stood in that hallway for a full minute, phone pressed to my ear, trying to figure out what I felt. Concern? Relief that he was stable? Anger that this might be another manipulation? All of it at once? Kevin, you still there? Yeah. Which hospital? Mercy General, 4th floor cardiac unit. I told my client I had a family emergency and would reschedule. Drove to the hospital in a daze. The Mercedes suddenly felt ridiculous, cruising through afternoon traffic toward a situation where my father might be dying, and I wasn't sure if I even cared enough to cry about it. The cardiac unit waiting room smelled like industrial disinfectant and bad coffee. Mom was there with Sophie. Mom's eyes were red and puffy. When she saw me, she stood up like she wanted to hug me but wasn't sure if she was allowed. Kevin, thank you for coming. How is he? Mild heart attack. They're doing an angiogram now to check for blockages. The doctor said his cholesterol has been dangerously high for years, and he refused to take it seriously. Of course he did. Dad's approach to health problems was the same as his approach to emotional problems. Ignore them and hope they go away. Can we see him? Not yet. They'll come get us when he's out of the procedure. We sat down. The 3 of us in a row, 2 empty chairs between me and Mom like a buffer zone. Sophie kept checking her phone. Mom kept twisting her wedding ring. I stared at a motivational poster on the wall about heart health and tried to figure out why I'd driven 20 minutes to sit in an uncomfortable chair waiting for news about a man I'd basically excommunicated from my life. He's been stressed, Mom said suddenly. Since everything happened with the company and the board meeting, he hasn't been sleeping well. Haven't been eating well. Is that supposed to make me feel guilty? No, I thought you should know. Dad's health problems are not my fault. I didn't say they were. You implied it. Sophie put a hand on my arm. Kevin, not now. A doctor came out 45 minutes later. Young guy, South Asian. Name tag, said Dr. Patel. He had the kind of calm, measured delivery that people develop when they give bad news for a living. Mrs. Hollis, your husband's angiogram showed significant blockage in 2 arteries. We're recommending bypass surgery. It's serious, but he's stable enough to schedule it for next week rather than doing emergency surgery today. Mom's hands were shaking. Bypass surgery, that's open heart surgery. Yes, but it's a routine procedure with a high success rate. The bigger concern is his overall cardiovascular health. His cholesterol is 310. His blood pressure is stage 2 hypertension. He's significantly overweight and by his own admission, hasn't exercised regularly in 15 years. He'll do better, Mom said quickly. He'll change his diet. He'll start walking, whatever he needs to do. Dr. Patel looked at me and Sophie, then back at Mom. Lifestyle changes are important, but they only work if the patient is committed. A lot of heart attack survivors struggle with that commitment. Translation: your husband is probably not going to change. Can we see him? Sophie asked. Give us another hour to get him settled in a room. Then yes. The doctor left. Mom collapsed back into her chair. This is bad, she whispered. This is really bad. He's going to be okay, Sophie said. But she didn't sound convinced. We waited another hour. Then, a nurse came and took us to Dad's room. He looked smaller somehow, hooked up to monitors and IVs, hospital gown making him look frail instead of intimidating. His eyes were closed when we walked in, but opened when Mom said his name. Richard, the kids are here. His gaze moved from Sophie to me. Stopped. Kevin, hey Dad, didn't think you'd come. Sophie said it was serious. He tried to sit up, winced, gave up. Doctor says I need surgery. Bypass. We heard. Says I need to change my whole lifestyle. Diet, exercise, stress management. He laughed, which turned into a cough. Stress management? That's rich. Mom jumped in. We'll figure it out together. I'll cook healthier meals. We'll go for walks together. Whatever you need. But Dad was still looking at me. Did I do this? He asked quietly. Is this because of everything with you and the company? The room went silent. Sophie looked at me. Mom looked at me. Even the heart monitor seemed to pause. Do you want me to lie? I asked. Kevin. Mom's voice was sharp. No, let him answer. Dad shifted in the bed. Tell me the truth. Do you think I had a heart attack because of our fight? I think you had a heart attack because you refused to take care of yourself. I think the stress didn't help. But you made the choices that led here. Not me. So it is my fault. It's not about fault, Dad. It's about consequences. You've spent decades prioritizing the wrong things. And now your body is sending you a bill you can't ignore. Mom stood up. How dare you? Your father is lying in a hospital bed and you're lecturing him about priorities. He asked me a question. I answered honestly. You're being cruel. I'm being truthful. There's a difference. Dad held up a hand. Karen, stop. He's right. We all stared at him. The doctor asked me what my stress level has been like. I told him about work, about investments. But I didn't tell him about Kevin because I didn't want to admit that fight has been eating at me for months. Dad, let me finish. He took a breath, winced again. I haven't slept properly since the board tabled my proposal. I keep thinking about what you said. About how I treated you different from Sophie. About favoritism. Richard, you don't have to do this now, Mom said. Yes, I do. Because if I don't say it now, I might not get another chance. He looked directly at me. You were right. The heart monitor beeped steadily in the silence. About what? I asked carefully. All of it. The favoritism. The way I treated you. I didn't see it when it was happening. Or I did see it and told myself it was fair. That I was being harder on you because you were the oldest. Because you were a boy? Because my father was hard on me and I turned out fine. You're not fine, I said. You're in a cardiac unit about to have open heart surgery. He actually smiled at that. Point taken. Richard. Mom sat back down, grabbed his hand. You don't have to do this. Not now. Karen, I almost died today. If I don't say this now, when am I going to say it? Mom's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. Dad turned back to me. I did favor Sophie. I know that now. And I have a lot of theories about why. About my own childhood. About gender expectations. About fear of repeating my father's mistakes and somehow making different ones instead. But none of those reasons excuse what I did to you. My throat felt tight. I made you feel worthless, he continued. And then I acted like you were overreacting when you called me out on it. And when you succeeded despite me, I tried to tear that down too. The Mercedes, the commission, all of it. Because if you could make it without my help, that meant you didn't need me. And that terrified me more than I want to admit. Dad! My voice came out rough. I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm truly, genuinely sorry. I was a bad father to you, and I don't know if I can fix that. But I'm going to try. Sophie was crying. Mom was crying. I was not crying, except I definitely was. Okay, I managed to say. Okay? Let's see how it goes. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a door left open. We stayed at the hospital for another hour. Made small talk about the surgery schedule and recovery expectations. Sophie showed Dad pictures of her new apartment. Mom fussed with his pillows and blankets. I mostly just sat there, trying to process a conversation I'd been waiting 26 years to have. On the way out, Sophie pulled me aside in the parking lot. That was big, she said. Yeah. Do you believe him? That he's going to try? I don't know. People say a lot of things when they're scared. But you're going to give him a chance? I looked back at the hospital building. 4th floor. Window, probably his room. One chance, I said. That's it. The surgery happened 6 days later. 5 hours long. Dr. Patel came out afterward looking tired but satisfied. Double bypass went well. He'll be in ICU overnight, then cardiac recovery for about a week. After that, 6 weeks of monitored rest and cardiac rehab. Mom sagged with relief. Sophie hugged me. I felt numb and exhausted. We saw Dad later that evening. He was loopy from anesthesia, kept calling Sophie by Mom's name and asking if someone had fed his dog. They'd never owned a dog, but he squeezed my hand when I sat down next to the bed, looked at me with unfocused eyes and said, "You came back." Of course I did. Good kid. Always were. Then he passed back out. Sophie raised an eyebrow. Always were? Anesthesia talking. Or maybe the truth for once. Over the next 6 weeks, I visited Dad 3 times a week, brought him books about financial planning and retirement strategies, topics he could engage with from bed, helped Mom reorganize his medications and set up reminder apps on his phone, sat with him during cardiac rehab sessions where he complained constantly about the treadmill being set for geriatrics. "I'm only 58, he grumbled one session. "They've got me walking like I'm 90. "You're walking like someone who just had double bypass surgery," the physical therapist corrected. "Next week we'll increase your speed." Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt something. Not the relationship we'd had before, that was too broken to salvage, but something new, something more honest. He asked about my work without trying to control it, complimented my new promotion without qualifiers, even admitted that the Mercedes was, objectively speaking, a really nice car. "Though you could have gotten better financing terms," he added. 2.9% isn't bad, but I know a credit union that... Dad. Right, sorry, none of my business. Progress. Sophie joined us for dinner one night at the hospital cafeteria. Grim place, but convenient. Dad was mobile enough to leave his room by then, still slow but walking. "How's pottery?" Dad asked. Sophie and I exchanged looks. "I quit pottery," Sophie said. 4 months ago." Dad frowned. "But we just set up the new kiln." "I know. And I returned it. Told you to donate it." "Oh." He pushed food around his plate. "I guess I wasn't listening." "You never listen, Dad," Sophie said, but her tone was gentle. "You just see what you want to see and assume everything's fine. I'm trying to get better at that." "I know you are." He looked at both of us. "What else have I missed? What else am I wrong about?" "Do you want the full list?" I asked. "Because it's long." "Hit me." So we did. Sophie talked about how the constant funding made her feel incompetent, how she never learned to budget or save because money just appeared whenever she wanted something, how she was still unlearning those patterns. I talked about therapy. I'd started going 2 months ago. About recognizing childhood emotional neglect. About how his approval had been so important to me that its absence shaped my entire self-worth for decades. Dad listened. Actually listened. Asked questions. Didn't defend or deflect. When we finished, he sat quietly for a long time. "I really screwed up both of you," he finally said. "Pretty much," Sophie agreed. "But we're fixing it," I added. "All of us together. Is that possible? Can you actually fix this kind of damage?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But we can try." That was 2 months ago. Dad's recovery is ongoing. He's down 15 pounds. His cholesterol dropped to 240, still high but improving. He walks 2 miles every morning with Mom, slow but consistent. Goes to therapy twice a month, same therapist practice as me, different counselor. Last week he asked if he could take me to lunch. Not at home, not with Mom, just the 2 of us. We went to this Italian place downtown. He ordered a salad, no dressing, grilled chicken on the side, healthy choices that clearly pained him. "I've been thinking a lot," he said, "about what kind of father I was, what kind I want to be now. Okay, I can't fix the past. I know that. But I want to make sure I do better going forward. You're already doing better. Am I, though? He set down his fork. Because here's what I realized. I apologized in the hospital. I've been trying to be more present, more aware, but I never actually changed the fundamental pattern. What do you mean? I mean, I'm still not treating you and Sophie equally. I'm still favoring her financially, still paying for her apartment, still depositing money in her account every month, while you're completely independent and I act like that's just how it should be. I hadn't expected this. The difference is I'm choosing to be independent now, I said. Before you forced it on me. Now it's my decision. But that doesn't make it fair. That doesn't fix the 26 years where I gave Sophie everything and gave you nothing. So, what are you suggesting? He pulled out his phone, opened his banking app, turned it toward me. There was a savings account in my name. Balance, $150,000. What is this? Retroactive fairness. I calculated roughly what we spent on Sophie over the years for dance classes, pottery, violin, living expenses, everything. Then I matched it. That's your money. Do whatever you want with it. I stared at the screen. Dad, I know you don't need it. That's not the point. The point is you deserved it years ago and I failed to give it to you. Now I'm making it right. This is insane. It's long overdue. I handed his phone back. I can't take this. It's already in your name. The account is linked to your social security number. You can access it whenever you want. Dad, Kevin, please, let me do this. Let me prove I'm serious about treating you fairly. We sat there for a long moment. I'll think about it, I finally said. That's all I ask. The conversation moved to other topics. Work, investments, Sophie's new internship, surface-level stuff that felt comfortable after the emotional intensity. When lunch ended, we stood in the parking lot next to my Mercedes. Still a hell of a car, Dad said. Thanks. He hesitated, then pulled me into a hug. Awkward, uncertain, but genuine. I love you, Kevin. I know I didn't show it properly before, but I do. I know, Dad. I'm going to keep trying, keep doing better, even if it takes the rest of my life. That's all anyone can ask. He pulled back, wiped his eyes quickly. Damn allergies. Sure, Dad, allergies. I watched him walk to his car, slower than he used to move, but steadier somehow. Like the heart attack had forced him to rebuild more than just his cardiovascular system. That night, I logged into the savings account. $150,000. Just sitting there. Money that could pay off my car loan completely, cover a down payment on a house, fund a decade of investments. Money that represented a father finally understanding he'd been wrong. I transferred $50,000 to my investment account, left the rest for now. Not because I couldn't use it, but because taking it all at once felt too much like absolution. And we weren't there yet. Sophie called while I was staring at the numbers. Dad told me what he did, she said. The savings account. Yeah, that's big. It is. Are you going to take it? Some of it. Eventually. He's really trying, Kevin. I know. Do you think we can actually fix this? Our family? I thought about Dad in the hospital bed apologizing, about the cardiac rehab sessions, about lunch today and that awkward hug in the parking lot, about 26 years of damage and 2 months of genuine effort to repair it. I think we can try, I said. That's all we can do. That's more than we had before. Yeah, it is. After we hung up, I went for a drive. Just me and the Mercedes and the city lights. No destination, just motion. The car still represented what it always had. Proof that I made it. Proof that I didn't need their approval or their money to succeed. But now it represented something else too. The moment everything changed. The catalyst that forced my father to confront his own mortality and his own failures. The $94,000 purchase that saved my relationship with my family by almost destroying it first. Worth every penny. Update 2. The Reckoning. 6 months after Dad's heart attack, things were actually decent. I know, I'm as surprised as you are. We'd settled into a routine. Weekly dinners at their house or a restaurant. Monthly financial planning sessions where Dad and I reviewed investment strategies. His therapist suggested it as a way to bond over shared interests without old patterns. Sophie was thriving at her accounting internship, getting offers from 3 different firms before she even graduated. The $150,000 in the savings account sat mostly untouched. I'd pulled $50,000 for investments, like I said, but the remaining $100,000 felt like a safety net. I wasn't ready to fully accept yet. Then Mom called at 7 in the morning on a Tuesday. Kevin, we need to talk. Family meeting. Tonight. Mom, I have a client presentation at 6. Cancel it. This is important. Something in her voice made me pause. Not angry. Not sad. Something else. Brittle. What's going on? Tonight, 6 o'clock. Just be there. She hung up before I could ask more questions. I texted Sophie. Did Mom call you? Yeah. What the fuck is happening? No idea. I rescheduled my presentation, drove to their house with a sense of dread that felt familiar in all the wrong ways. This was how I used to feel before every family dinner, before every conversation, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Sophie was already there when I arrived. So was Dad, sitting in the living room with the kind of expression people wear when they're about to admit to a crime. "Okay," I said. "What's going on?" Mom stood by the fireplace. She was wearing a nice dress, full makeup, like she was preparing for something formal or something terrible. "I'm leaving your father," she said. The room went completely still. Sophie's mouth fell open. Dad stared at the floor. I just stood there trying to process words that didn't make sense. "What?" Sophie finally managed. "I'm filing for divorce. I've already spoken with a lawyer. I wanted to tell you both together before we started the proceedings." "Mom," I said slowly, "where is this coming from?" She laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. "Where is this coming from? Kevin, where has it been hiding for 30 years? Dad finally spoke. "Karen, please, we can still talk about this. We've been talking about it for 6 months. Since your heart attack. Since you started therapy and suddenly realized you were a terrible father. Well, guess what? You were also a terrible husband. And I'm done." Sophie looked like she might throw up. "This is because of Dad's apology? Because he's trying to change? No, this is because watching him grovel for your forgiveness made me realize I've been accepting crumbs for decades." Mom's voice was sharp. "Do you know what it's like? Watching your husband favor your daughter over your son? Watching him make decisions that hurt your child and not saying anything because you're supposed to be a united front? You could have said something," I said quietly. "I should have. I didn't. And that's on me. But I'm saying something now." Dad stood up. "Karen, please. I know I've been a bad husband, but I'm trying to fix things. Therapy is helping. I'm changing. You're changing because you had a heart attack and got scared, not because you wanted to be better, not because you woke up one day and realized your family was in pain. You changed because you almost died, and suddenly your mortality became real. That's not fair." "Fair?" Mom's voice cracked. "Richard, you tried to sabotage our son's career because he bought a car without your permission. You've spent 23 years treating Kevin like a problem to be solved instead of a person to be loved. You turned Sophie into a spoiled brat who didn't know how to balance a checkbook until she was 23. And through all of it, I said nothing. I enabled every terrible decision you made because I didn't want to rock the boat." Tears were streaming down her face now. "I'm done being an enabler. I'm done watching you hurt our children and pretending it's fine. I'm done being married to a man who only learns lessons when his body literally forces him to." "Mom," Sophie whispered, "you don't mean this." "I absolutely mean this. Your father and I have been sleeping in separate rooms for 4 months. We haven't had a real conversation that wasn't about his health or your lives since last Christmas. This marriage has been dead for years. I'm just finally admitting it." I sat down on the couch. My brain felt like it was moving through wet cement. This was too much. Too fast. Too weird. "When?" I asked. "When what? When did you realize you wanted a divorce?" Mom wiped her eyes. "The day your father gave you that savings account. He came home so proud of himself, kept talking about how he'd made things right, how he'd balanced the scales, and all I could think was, it shouldn't have taken a heart attack and 6 months of therapy for you to realize you owed your son an apology." She looked at Dad with something like pity. "That's when I knew. This wasn't growth. This was fear. And I can't spend the rest of my life with someone who only does the right thing when he's terrified of consequences." "That's not true," Dad said desperately. "I'm changing because I want to be better, because I love this family. You love the idea of this family. You love the version where you're the patriarch who knows best and everyone else just falls in line. You don't love the reality of us. The messy, complicated reality where people have needs and feelings you can't control." She grabbed her purse from the side table. "I'm staying at my sister's house for now. The lawyer will contact you next week with paperwork. I'll come by this weekend to pack my things." She looked at Sophie and me. "I love you both. This has nothing to do with you. This is between me and your father." Then she walked out. The three of us sat in stunned silence. Dad was crying now, quiet tears running down his face. Sophie had her head in her hands. I just stared at the door. Mom had closed behind her. "Did that just happen?" Sophie asked. "I think so," I said. Dad stood up abruptly. "I need to call her. I need to fix this." "Dad, wait." But he was already dialing, pacing across the living room like a caged animal. The call went to voicemail. He tried again, voicemail again. "She blocked me," he said in disbelief. "She actually blocked my number." He sank back onto the couch, phone dangling from his hand. "This is my fault," he said. "Everything is my fault." For once, neither Sophie nor I contradicted him. We stayed there for another hour, Dad spiraling through grief and denial. Sophie trying to process the fact that our parents' marriage was ending. Me trying to figure out how I felt about it. Sad? Yes, but also something else. Something unexpected. Relief. Because Mom was right. Their marriage had been dead for a long time. Maybe it had always been unhealthy. Maybe that's why Dad was so controlling and Mom was so passive. Maybe their dysfunction was the root of everything else. Around 8 o'clock, Sophie's boyfriend called, wondering where she was. She left with promises to check on Dad tomorrow. I stayed a bit longer. You should eat something, I told Dad. I'm not hungry. When's the last time you ate? He thought about it. Lunch yesterday. I went to the kitchen and made him a sandwich. Turkey, lettuce, mustard. He ate it mechanically while staring at his phone like it might suddenly show a text from Mom. I deserve this, he said quietly. Everything she said was true. Probably. You're not going to argue with me? Would it help? He laughed, bitter. No. Then, no, I'm not going to argue. We sat in the kitchen. The same kitchen where he'd lectured me about fiscal responsibility 2 years ago. Where Mom had made countless dinners that we'd eaten in uncomfortable silence. Where our family had performed normalcy for decades while rotting from the inside. Can I ask you something? Dad said. Sure. When did you realize our family was broken? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I think I always knew, I finally said. But I didn't have language for it until later. I just thought that's how families were. That everyone felt invisible and worthless at home. I'm so sorry, Kevin. I know you are. Will you ever forgive me? Really forgive me? Honestly? I don't know, I'm trying. But there's a lot of damage. He nodded. What about your mother? Will you forgive her? For what? For not protecting you. For enabling me. That was a harder question. She's doing the right thing now, I said carefully. That counts for something. But it's too late. Maybe. Or maybe it's exactly on time. Maybe she needed to watch you almost die and then scramble to make amends to realize she deserved better too. Dad was quiet for a long time. I'm going to lose everything, he finally said. My wife, my health, the respect of my children. What do I even have left? You have a chance to actually change. Not because you're scared of dying, but because it's the right thing to do. Is that enough? I have no idea, Dad, but it's what you've got. I left around 9. Drove home in my Mercedes feeling emotionally exhausted. Called Sophie on the way. How's he doing? She asked. Bad. But honestly, I think this needed to happen. That's harsh. Is it? Their marriage was toxic. Maybe this is Mom finally putting herself first. I know, I don't know. I thought they'd make it work. Some things are too broken to fix. We talked for another 20 minutes. Made plans to take Mom to lunch this weekend, hear her side. Agreed to keep checking on Dad but not enable his self-pity. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Thinking about family and dysfunction and patterns that repeat across generations until someone has the courage to break them. Mom was breaking the pattern. After 30 years of enabling and silence, she was finally standing up and saying, enough. It was messy and painful and probably should have happened sooner, but it was happening. And maybe that was the real lesson in all of this. It's never too late to start doing the right thing, even if it means burning everything down first. Update 3. New foundations. A year after Mom left, our family had reformed into something unrecognizable from what it used to be. Dad sold the house. Too many memories, he said. Too much space for one person. He bought a small condo downtown, 2 bedrooms, walking distance to cardiac rehab. He'd lost 40 pounds. Cholesterol down to 190. He walked 5 miles every morning and went to therapy twice a week. He was lonely. Deeply, obviously lonely. But he was dealing with it in healthier ways than I expected. He'd joined a support group for divorced men. Started volunteering at a food bank on weekends. Reconnected with old college friends who drifted away during his marriage. I'm learning how to be a person, he told me over coffee one morning. Sounds stupid, but I realized I'd spent my entire adult life being a husband and father and investor. Never just Richard. That doesn't sound stupid. Your mother was smart to leave. I see that now. Mom had bought a small house across town. 2 bedrooms. A garden she was slowly bringing back to life. She'd started painting. Watercolors mostly. Landscapes and abstract pieces that she claimed were terrible but actually weren't. She and Dad were civil, friendly even. They'd worked out the divorce settlement without too much drama. Split the retirement accounts. Dad kept his investments. Mom got half the proceeds from the house sale, plus alimony for 3 years while she figured out her next move. I might go back to school, she told Sophie and me at lunch. I always wanted to be a teacher. Maybe it's not too late. You'd be a great teacher, Sophie said. You think so? Yeah. You're patient. You explain things well, and you've got a lot of life experience to draw from. Mom smiled. Life experience. That's a polite way of saying I wasted 30 years in a bad marriage. You didn't waste it, I said. You got us out of it. I got you and Sophie. That's something. Sophie had graduated and accepted a position at a mid-sized accounting firm. She was good at her job. Really good. Her boss had already mentioned partnership track. She'd also cut off financial support from Dad completely. It was enabling, she explained when I asked why. He kept wanting to deposit money every month, and I realized if I kept taking it, I'd never really grow up. I'd always be the daughter who needed her daddy's money. How's that feel? Scary, but also good? Like I'm finally my own person. We'd grown closer, Sophie and I. Did lunch twice a month. She'd started asking me for advice on investments and career decisions, treating me like a brother instead of competition. The family dinners still happened, but now they were voluntary, casual. Sometimes just me and Sophie. Sometimes Mom joined. Sometimes Dad. Once we even had everyone together for Sophie's birthday, and it was awkward but not painful. My career had continued its upward climb. I'd been promoted to senior vice president. I managed 30 people now. Made enough money that the Mercedes felt practical instead of extravagant. I'd also started dating someone. Her name was Vivian. She was an architect, funny and grounded and completely unimpressed by expensive cars or job titles. You work too much, she told me one night after I canceled dinner plans for the third time in 2 weeks. I know, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, be different. So I was trying, leaving work at 6 instead of 8, taking weekends off, learning how to exist as a person instead of just a career. On the anniversary of Dad's heart attack, I visited him at his condo, brought Thai food and beer. We ate on his tiny balcony overlooking the city. I've been thinking about what you said, Dad told me, about how some things are too broken to fix. Okay, I don't think we're too broken. No, I think we were broken, past tense, but we're building something new, something better. I considered that. Maybe. You still don't trust me. Not completely, but more than before. That's fair. He took a sip of his beer. I don't trust myself completely either. I keep waiting for old patterns to resurface, for me to slip back into being the person I was. Has that happened? Small moments. I caught myself about to lecture Sophie about her spending last month. Had to physically stop myself and remember it's none of my business. Progress, he agreed. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. The city spread out below us, cars and lights and people living their messy lives. Thank you, Dad said suddenly. For what? For not giving up on me, for giving me chances I didn't deserve, for being better than I was. I'm not better than you, Dad. You are, though. You broke patterns I couldn't even see. You built a life based on your own values instead of reacting to mine. That takes courage I never had. You're breaking patterns now. 58 years old and finally learning basic emotional intelligence. Better late than never, I guess. Better late than never, I echoed. My phone buzzed. Vivian. Still on for tomorrow? Yeah, looking forward to it. Good. Wear something nice. I'm taking you somewhere fancy. Should I be nervous? Probably. I smiled and put my phone away. Dad noticed. That's new. What? That smile. You used to smile with your mouth but not your eyes. Now you smile for real. Therapy helps. It really does. Before I left, Dad walked me to the door, hugged me properly, not the awkward side hug from before. I love you, Kevin. I know I didn't show it right, but I'm showing it now. Every day I'm trying to show it. I know, Dad. Are we going to be okay? Eventually? I thought about the past 2 years, the heart attack and the divorce and the slow, painful work of rebuilding trust, the therapy sessions and awkward dinners and moments of genuine connection. Yeah, I said. Eventually we're going to be okay. 2 months later, Vivian and I got engaged. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Mom and Dad both came, sat on opposite sides of the venue but were cordial when they crossed paths. Your father looks good, Mom told me while we were taking photos. Happy. He's working on it. We all are. Sophie was my best woman, stood next to me while I said vows and cried like a baby. Later at the reception, she pulled me aside. This is weird, she said. What? All of this. Our family being functional, Dad being supportive, Mom being happy, you being engaged. It's like we're normal people now. We're working on being normal people. Do you think we'll ever fully get there? I have no idea, but I think we're closer than we've ever been. That's something. That's everything. The Mercedes was parked out front, decorated with "Just Engaged," written in window paint by Sophie and Vivian. It looked ridiculous. I loved it. As we drove away from the reception, Vivian looked over at me. Your family's pretty great, she said. They're better than they used to be. That's a hell of an origin story. Family nearly implodes. Everyone goes to therapy. They all actually change and become better people. When you put it that way, it sounds fake. It sounds hard, but you all did the work. Yeah, we did. She reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you, for not letting them define you, for building your own life, for giving them chances they didn't deserve. They're giving themselves chances now. That's what matters. Still, it takes a special kind of strength to watch your parents struggle and not say, "I told you so." "Oh, I've said it, just not out loud." She laughed. We drove through the city, past the dealership where I bought this car 3 years ago, past my old apartment where I'd lived on ramen and dreams, past my parents' old house, now owned by a young family with kids.